Hey everyone, this is Escargo. I just wanted to make an update video, basically kind of explaining where I'm at right now with speedrunning Mercenaries and kind of my plan moving forward with the game. Um, I just want to start by thanking all my subscribers, followers, viewers, chatters, lurkers, whatever, anybody who interacts with my content or any of the content that people in the mercenaries community are making. Seriously, thank you. There's definitely an intrinsic reason why I do these runs and why I'm interested in this hobby, but I definitely would not have been doing it as long as I have done it if it weren't for the external validation and ultimately my goal with the game, which I'm gonna kind of get into more detail later, is to build engagement in the franchise. Right, like it's not so much to build my channel or anything like that. So yeah, thank you all for interacting in that way. But yeah, so for anyone who's following my YouTube channel, and I know there's kind of different audiences. There are the people that are on Twitch only. There are the people that are in the Discord only. There are people that are on YouTube only, and then there's obviously kind of overlap between the three. You've probably seen that I've been doing ACC runs lately, all contracts and cards, and I've been kind of hunting for like a sub 2 hour run. I'm going to be postponing that. I just uploaded my most recent record, which I didn't even plan to upload it because it wasn't a very good run and it wasn't that much of an improvement on the run before it. And I still haven't reached like my goal, but I'm going to kind of just postpone that indefinitely. And that's kind of what's been happening actually with a lot of like things I've been pursuing, like runs and records that I've been pursuing lately with the game. They're getting harder to achieve, but they don't feel like they should be harder to achieve. So like I thought I would get an any percent record a lot sooner than I did, or sorry, not any percent, like the ACC run. I thought I would have beaten this, gotten this sub 2 hour by now, and I haven't. And that was kind of the case with New Game Plus as well. I thought I was going to get a sub 32, and I ended up kind of like switching off of that category. And even like for my Rainbow Six runs, like I've been hunting down on like library, which is like a terrorist hunt individual level. I've been hunting down a 125 that Sniper achieved a long time ago, because I love that map and I feel some maybe misplaced sense of obligation to like run that map and beat any time that's set in it. I've spent over 24 hours real time trying to beat his time, and my time's a 133 right now, so I still have 8 more seconds that I need to cut off to match his time, which over the course of a minute and a half run is that's a pretty wide gap, right? So what I'm kind of noticing is I'm spending more and more time to get the the records that I'm happy with. And I think I'm kind of experiencing diminishing returns, essentially. And dare I say, I'm feeling a bit burnt out from the hobby. So, like, just to kind of give some perspective, this is my Twitch, like, analytics page this is my lifetime of Twitch. So it looks like this spans, when did I start streaming? I started streaming, like, my first stream was sometime around like January 15th of 2020. So it's been over 2 years now that I've been streaming, and I've streamed for almost 800 hours. And that is exclusively, with like only a few exceptions, that is exclusively doing speedruns. So, mixed between Rainbow Six, Mercenaries, and then a couple of miscellaneous things. But it's like a serious time investment. And I guess my return from that investment is not much. Just in terms of the numbers, right? I have 160 followers, 80 subscribers. Okay, just to be clear, this is 80 total subscribers and 160 total follows. This is not concurrent. I think like the highest concurrent number of subscribers I've had is like 10. So this is 80 is the total number of times people have chosen to subscribe. most of those being recurring. Just wanted to clarify that. I've made less than $200. And this is not my goal with this. It was never my goal with this to like build a massive channel or have a kind of a big following or anything. But I just think it's worth showing this to kind of get like put it into perspective of how much time I'm putting into this hobby, and you know, hopefully that'll kind of provide some context when I get into more like what my goal is and what my original goal is. And I can show my YouTube. These are my YouTube analytics. So I have 43,000 views total. And I have other YouTube channels. Like when I was in high school, I used to do like guitar covers. And I had single videos, and I didn't even care about, like, I was just doing that to learn guitar, essentially. I thought it was kind of fun. I had single videos, like single guitar covers that would get more views than this. So like really just like the outreach that this has achieved is not exactly where I was expecting it. And like I haven't really experienced any sort of like growth, exponential or otherwise, in terms of like new viewers and stuff. It's been kind of a steady stream of like a slow trickle of new subscribers and new viewers and things like that, which is great. But yeah, I guess that's a decent segue into what was my original goal with this. So back in 2019 was when I first kind of started getting interested in doing speedruns. So it was right before COVID happened. I was starting to watch speedruns. It was like I wasn't even I was only watching them briefly. When I first when I first started like watching people speedrun, I thought it was so absurd. And I don't know if like even I don't know if like cringe is the right word. Also, even the word cringe is kind of cringe, but like I was almost like, what in the world are these people doing with their time? Like this seems like the most insane hobby. But I couldn't. I found myself just like getting hooked on watching speedruns, no matter how ridiculous like my brain thought it was. You know, I found it interesting, and I kept kind of like following. So I was following like Last of Us speedruns, Halo Combat Evolved speedruns, and Mercenaries has always been one of my favorite games of all time. And I was always surprised at how like little attention Mercenaries got for speedrunning, especially when you compare it to games like Grand Theft Auto, which have massive followings, and it's essentially the same game. I would argue Mercenaries is better than any Grand Theft Auto that's ever been released, and I'm not even knocking Grand Theft Auto. That's just how highly I think of Mercenaries. So it got to a point where I was kind of like, you know, like, why don't I just give it a shot, right? Like, I want to see people speedrun this game because I enjoyed watching speedruns, and no one seems to be doing it, so why don't I just do it? And literally my first run, it wasn't even like, you know, I didn't even have practice runs. I kind of just studied the route very loosely that the current record holder had, and I went for it, and I was able to get it on my first attempt. So like, what the hell? Sorry, there's someone showed up at the door, and I was like, I didn't know who it was. Yeah, so I was able to beat the record pretty much immediately, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, right? And so I kind of got into running, and then that's basically like how I got into running the game. Was I was interested in speedruns in general as a viewer. I never thought I would run the games. I never like was a commenter. I never watched anything on Twitch, but I wanted people to run Mercenaries because I like that game. And so I figured I would do it to try to build a community around it, because the community was very small and not super active. So my goal with this has always been to try to build engagement. So like, what I really want is I want other people to run the game, and I want the community of followers of the game to grow. So that's what I wanted originally, and it's kind of, you know, like then COVID happened, right? And speedrunning all of a sudden became like the best hobby in the world, because if you were following the guidelines, especially if you're in California, if you're following the lockdowns of essentially staying on site all the time, it was a fantastic hobby to burn large periods of time with something that was fun and engaging, and basically, like, if you're going to be locked down anyway, it's a great thing to do while you're stuck in your house, essentially, right? So the timing worked out really well, where like I started speedrunning, and then like immediately we went into COVID lockdown mode, and that lasted for essentially 2 years. And now we're kind of coming out of it, right? Like COVID is not gone, obviously, and who knows? Maybe humanity will just like be stuck with COVID to some extent for forever. But as far as restrictions, lockdowns, and everything like that go, like it's effectively ending, right? And so I've been feeling, at the beginning of 2022, I've been feeling a lot of what I've started to refer to as like post-COVID anxiety. And the more people I talk with, the more people or that I hear from or whatever, like it seems like this is really common. Like I'm not going to get into too many specifics about like who I've talked to and what they've experienced, but just to like give a few examples, like I've talked to family that have like they feel like they're more anxious than normal, more depressed than normal, right? Coworkers who feel like they don't have what's the word, like motivation at work. Other speedrunners are making videos kind of like I'm making, just talking about where they're at with the hobby, right? So I think this is kind of in the zeitgeist. There's this like sense of, and I might just be projecting how I feel about it, but for me, it's this sense of, okay, for 2 years, we not only had an excuse to stay inside and not like do much, but it was actually the quote quote like right thing to do. You were helping others by staying indoors, and now COVID's kind of ending again. Big asterisks on COVID ending. And it's kind of like, okay, well, 2 years of my life has passed. What have I done in the last 2 years? And what do I want to do with the next 2 years of my life? Where do I see myself, in 10, 2, 5, 10 years or whatever? And am I currently on the right path to get to that place, right? Am I using my time effectively? So that's kind of like why I think I'm feeling a bit of burnout with speedrunning, where it's like I'm investing all of this time and I feel like it's not as rewarding as it was, at least during COVID. So back to my my original goal statement, right? Like, have I accomplished my goal? Have I increased interest in the game significantly? Created a community that is self-sufficient, essentially, where like I could potentially leave tomorrow and it would carry on its own. And at the risk of sounding vain, like, I think the answer is no. I don't know if I've really accomplished the goal I set out to. The thing I'm most proud of is our Discord server. Like, we have grown, like, since I've joined the Discord server, we have grown it to, we're almost at 250 members at this point, which, I think it was like somewhere around 20 members when I joined. So like that's awesome. And the other thing I love about the Discord is it's super active and people are posting all the time. And it's like definitely a highlight. Like I check the Discord every day because it's a fun place to be, just like as far as like a forum goes. And so like I like that aspect of it. I'm really proud of that. We also had we were able to track down the developers, the original developers of Mercenaries and Mercenaries 2 who worked at Pandemic, and we basically like got them to join the Discord, and we had an Ask Me Anything with them, which was amazing. And we asked them all kinds of questions, and they were really, they remembered and had so much more documentation. They remembered so much stuff and had so much more documentation than I think anyone was expecting. This was definitely the highlight of my experience speedrunning Mercenaries. So I'm proud of these things, but I also am disappointed by the fact that I'm effectively the only active speedrunner of Playground of Destruction. No offense to Real Zhao Peng or Banter or Sniper's End, who they are on the leaderboards. They have done runs. They I would say Real Zhao Peng is probably the second most active runner. But if I stop streaming speedruns of Playgrounds of Destruction, like that's 90% of the regular Twitch content or YouTube content for the game right there is just out the window. So that aspect is a little disappointing. I spent a ton of time making tutorials and whatnot and documenting, how speedruns are done and everything for the game in hopes that would attract more runners. It really didn't. And so like that part I'm not, super thrilled about. And, the other, like, pie in the sky goal, which I wouldn't necessarily say this is, like, the goal I had when I started doing this, but it's definitely, again, it's a pie in the sky thing. Like, if this gets big enough, right? If enough people get interested in Mercenaries and Mercenaries speedrunning, EA, who owns the IP, maybe they see a cause to revive it, right? Maybe they see a cause for Mercenaries 3 or some sort of, using that IP for something. Like, wouldn't that be incredible, right? I don't think we're anywhere close to that happening, though. And so that, from that standpoint, I feel like I haven't really accomplished, my goal when I set out for this. So as I'm looking at my investment, like my time investment into this hobby, yeah, and by the way, so I just want to tie this in. Like, those are my goals with the game. Like, how much revenue I'm making on Twitch, or like how many viewers I have, how many subscribers I have. I don't care. Like, obviously, I care from the standpoint of, like, it is rewarding. Like, every time somebody subscribes on Twitch and I get, $2 or whatever, that's awesome. Money is a huge motivational factor for me, as I'm sure it is for a lot of people. Even if, like, I don't need the money, it's good validation. Same with the subscriber. Same with comments. Comments are one of the best things when people comment on my video. Like, that I think is the most rewarding thing for me. But I don't ever intend, like, I'm not trying to become a full-time streamer. I have a job that I really like, and it's, more than enough to keep me, like, comfortable in terms of, like, I'm able to do all the hobbies and stuff that I want to do without any sort of financial issues. So I never intended for this to be like a full-time gig for me. But yeah, so looking at how I'm investing my time, I kind of want to maybe change gears a little bit and focus less on actually, like, anytime I have free time doing speedruns, and maybe instead being a little more targeted with how I'm spending my time trying to grow the Mercenaries community. So what does that mean? The first and foremost, oh, and by the way, if I'm, like, saying or like or whatever, like, this is essentially a completely unscripted video. I made kind of a few bullet points of things I wanted to make sure I didn't forget, but I just wanted to make this, like, casual video to kind of update everyone on where I'm at and whatnot. So yeah, anyway, on the immediate horizon, there are a few things that I think would probably be better uses of my time than actually maybe speedrunning the game. First and foremost is GDQ. So, for those who don't know, Games Done Quick is a semi-annual national convention, essentially. It's a speedrunning convention where everyone, speedrunners of all kinds of different games come and they do a live run of their game with... I'm not going to explain too much. I think 99% of people watching this video know what GDQ is, so I'm not going to explain what GDQ is. But there's one coming up in the summer. They're finally doing them in person again, which I think is debatably a better model than doing the digital ones that they've been doing during COVID. So I am going to start doing GDQ submissions every 6 months. There's a really good chance that I'm not going to get into the first one that I do, just from, like Anthony Caliber, for example, who was, like, one of my, dare I say, inspirations, for speedrunning. And he's one of the reasons, he does, like, Last of Us speedruns, and he will, even though he has the record, he will keep running a category until he gets the time he wants. And that's kind of how I've treated speedrunning Mercenaries. Like, they're goals that I intrinsically want and has nothing to do with whether I have first place or not. And it took him years to get into GDQ. And he's been the top Last of Us runner for basically since Last of Us speedrunning was a thing. So, I should realistically not expect to get into the first GDQ that I apply for. However, I will say that I have a few advantages of, like, Mercenaries is a relatively high-profile game. Last of Us is obviously higher profile, but Last of Us is also a very R-rated game, right? And I know that, like, GDQ generally shies away from things that are too rough around the edges. Like, Mercenaries is a T-rated game. It's a LucasArts production. It's from a legendary developer, Pandemic, right? I could imagine them doing, like, a Pandemic showcase or something like that, or even just being like, oh, what's this, like, cool random LucasArts game that, like, is actually super polished and has really good, like, presence and whatnot. So I would be equally surprised if I got in on my first submission, or if I didn't get in until, like, my 8th submission, right? So no expectations, but I'm going to start doing submissions because I've been kind of just procrastinating on that because I just wanted to focus on, like, my runs and getting good times that I want. But I think I kind of want to change gears and focus a little more on like accomplishing the original goal I actually set out to when I started speedrunning this. So that's number one. And I would love to have, like right now, my any percent record, which is, I would say, the most important category for mercenaries, and it's also my favorite. I think it would have been nice to have a sub 45-minute run before doing a GDQ, but it's not essential. So first things first is making a GDQ submission video. The next thing I want to do, which is something that we discussed with the developers, is to create a developers react video. So when we had the Ask Me Anything on the Discord server, we pitched the idea of doing a devs react, IGN style devs react video with them, and they were very open to the idea and interested in it, and they thought it would be fun. And I wanted to just do it, like while we had them on the phone, essentially, right? While they were interested, just get it done, because we didn't know if we were going to have access, how long we were going to have, access to them, essentially. But there was a bit of like, the conflict was, do we do that or do we try to reach out to IGN instead, because they have a much bigger outreach, right? If we get a video on their channel, what would that do for mercenary speedrunning versus if it's on my channel, And so we basically, I submitted to IGN and I never heard back, and then time just kind of slipped away, and now the the developers aren't really active on the Discord anymore, so it might be a bit of a struggle to get in contact with them and try to wrangle them all together for something like that. But I think that would be awesome to have that. Like, that would be maybe the thing that I care most about. If I retire from speedrunning this game completely, that's the thing that I really hope that I leave behind is being able to do a devs react video, because I think that would be really cool. So that's after GDQ. And by the way, GDQ submissions apparently are open, like they just opened today as I'm recording this, and they're open for, I think, like a week and a half or something. So I'll do that. Then I'm going to try to, get that devs react video made. But for that, even for GDQ, I don't need my sub 45-minute run. But for the devs react, I would really like to have a sub 45-minute run. So right now my record sits at 45 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and open up on one split here. My sum of best is a 43.53, and I actually recently discovered a new optimization that could probably take this another 10 to 15 seconds lower. So I have like a minute and a half of wiggle room to accomplish my goal, which is more than enough in a category this short to do it. So I know I can do it. The question is, like, I'm looking at the other categories where I'm like, oh, I have like this goal that I think is going to be easy, but then it takes me a really long time to actually accomplish, right? So I'm going to put in a decent bit of effort to try to get the time I want before I reach back out to the developers. But if I spend, I would say maybe like 3 to 4 weeks is the cutoff I want to place on that. If I'm like a month into doing any percent runs and I still haven't gotten the time I wanted, then I'll probably call it quits and just focus on like trying to get them back into the conversation, because I really want to do that. And then lastly, I just want to make some general, like, speedrun related, or maybe not just like, basically I just want to make general content for mercenaries, because I know that there are a lot of fans of the game that aren't, speedrunning maybe isn't their cup of tea, and I think there is stuff that can be done that's like entertaining for a general audience, right? So like, for example, I was thinking of doing like an airstrike tier list or something like that, right? Where I just rate the airstrikes in the game from best to worst. That could be fun. Something, just really casual, like I could just stream it and there would be chat interaction and whatnot. We also were planning to do a drunk mercenaries race in the Discord. I'm going to do that with Banter. It's just that Banter's got a really busy schedule, so like he hasn't really had the time for it. But I think stuff like that is more what I want to focus on, at least throughout the next 6 months or so, because again, I think it's just going to be like bang for buck in terms of time and effort I put into it. I think it's going to get me a lot further to like the original goal that I set out to with this hobby. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I don't know if there's really too much else to say, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate everyone watching, and I especially appreciate there are a few. I'm not going to name any names, like, because I don't want to accidentally exclude anyone, but most of you know who you are. There are a few people in the Discord that I think really believe in the mission, dare I say mission, that like I set out for originally with this game, which I've already talked about. I'm not going to go into that again, but like I think they believe in it as much, and they're putting in as much effort as they can to accomplish that goal. And that means like coming to streams, not just my streams, but anyone who's streaming Playground of Destruction and interacting in chat and trying to like build up, interaction in that sense. Anytime YouTube content about mercenaries in general is posted, we try to interact with it as a community. Obviously liking and sharing each other's content. There are definitely kind of like the ground troops. There's like a core squad of, I'd say, like roughly 10, maybe a dozen members in the Discord that are like putting in over 90% of the work to actually like try to make engagement with mercenaries something, take it to the next level, basically. So I really appreciate especially those people. Like, you guys really are probably my main motivation for why I've done this for as long as I have. And yeah, I guess I'll cut it off there. Would love any input or advice or feedback or whatever that anybody has. And yeah, I guess just look forward to more. And I will catch you guys in the next one, which I guess it'll be a GDQ submission video is probably what you'll see next on this channel. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.